Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back into the Bears Den, an NFL podcast with the Chicago Bears first focus. I'm your host, Alex, here today. Wanted to jump on here, end of March. We are approaching draft season. Going to have some mock draft videos coming up soon. But wanted to come up here and discuss something that I've seen through the media over the last couple months throughout the off season, and some conversations that I've had with my friends and even my father about there's this redraft narrative, right? If there was a 2024 redraft, who would the Bears take? And all the graphics I see, the Bears are always taking Jayden Daniels if there was a redraft. And, I think that's a very interesting topic because it is something to kind of think about, right? If there was a redraft, ask yourself this right now listening. Who would you draft? I know my answer. I would draft Caleb Williams. And there's multiple reasons for that, right? I think that it's completely evident that Jayden Daniels had a much more better, a much more successful season. He had a better season overall. Had better stats, had more wins. Obviously, went to the NFC Championship game. There's no denying that, right? I think anyone that tries to say that Caleb Williams had a better season than Jayden Daniels is delusional, right? But I think that you have to kind of look at it in a bigger picture, right? And you have to look at it through the unbiased lens and see the environments they were in, the players that were surrounding them, and things like that, right? So when we look at these things, let's go down the path of Jayden Daniels being drafted as a Bear last year. There would have been a ton of pressure throughout, post draft up to preseason, the start of the season, ton of pressure on Ryan Poles, right? Because for years, Caleb Williams was the consensus number one overall pick. I mean, we knew it 2 years ago. In 2020, I guess that would have been 2022, right? His first year at USC when he won the Heisman. We knew that kid was going to be going first overall in the NFL draft. So, say Jayden Daniels gets picked by Ryan Poles. There already would have been a ton of backlash, media flare ups, a ton of pressure on Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. They would have passed on the consensus number one pick, like a Trevor Lawrence or an Andrew Luck or a Peyton Manning, right? For a quarterback that people at this time last year were viewing as more of a project quarterback, right? I mean, this takes me back to and I'm going to go on a slight tangent here, but I think it's important. This takes me back to the 2017 draft with Mitchell Trubisky and Deshaun Watson and obviously Patrick Mahomes. I saw a tweet yesterday from 2017, people saying, oh, I don't think the Bears should pick Patrick Mahomes. He's not the right quarterback. He doesn't have what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. We've seen it through college. And obviously the replies to that were people laughing, people making fun of him and things like that. But a lot of the scouting reports back in 2017 were, a little bit, I don't want to say fearful, but I mean, that's kind of the word, right? They were fearful of Mahomes' ability to be a successful NFL quarterback in, at the professional level, right? And a lot of people had Mitchell Trubisky as the top quarterback in that draft. A lot of people had Deshaun Watson. There were people that thought Deshaun Kaiser was going to be a really good prospect. So when you look at these draft prospects and these pre-draft kind of evaluations, of course there's some things that you can take away from it, but it really depends on the situation that these players are put in, whether it's a stable environment, do they have, Pro Bowlers around them? Do they have veterans around them that can help coach and things like that, right? So let's get back on track. Let's say Jayden Daniels gets drafted by the Bears last year. There's all the backlash, Ryan Poles, ton of pressure. They have to win. Matt Eberflus is obviously in a win, a must-win now season, right? And they pass on the consensus first-round pick, and they take the quarterback that many people think is the project quarterback, right? So already, in the eyes of many, it's a big mistake, right? Jayden Daniels would not have had the success he had in Chicago last year, and there's multiple reasons for that. One of the big reasons Washington was able to have such success was they had the third best rushing offense in the league. And having a rushing attack is crucial for any quarterback, but it's extremely crucial for a young quarterback. Because when you can establish the run, it sets up things like play action, which are very beneficial to both Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams' games. Um, it takes some pressure off, and it doesn't allow teams to see you as a one-dimensional offense, right? The Bears had the eighth worst rushing attack in the league, and a lot of that stemmed from the offensive line troubles. Now, the Washington offensive line was not ranked very well either, but the rushing attack helped. And I personally think that DeAndre Swift is a very solid back. I think he's going to have a great year this year behind this improved offensive line in Chicago. But Caleb didn't have a running game, right? Caleb didn't have a defense that was as solid as the Commanders, right? We saw the Bears when they were 4-2, right, post Jacksonville game. The defense was actually quite good. The team looked quite good, and the Bears were looking like they were on pace to easily be a playoff team. And then obviously the game against Washington, which many people forget, Caleb Williams left the field that game with a lead. That game obviously changed and shifted the entire direction of the season, and the defense kind of fell off the rails after that. But Washington had a solid defense, right? A lot of those games in the second half of the season for the Bears, for Caleb Williams, it was an instant deficit, right? It was an instant playing from behind scenario, and that's really tough on a rookie quarterback that doesn't have a running game and that is in an offense where, unlike Jayden Daniels' scenario in Washington, is firing their coaches constantly, right? I mean, Caleb Williams went through Shane Waldron's offense, right? Then he went from Matt Eberflus still being the head coach, but Thomas Brown being the offensive coordinator, right? And then he went from Thomas Brown being the offensive coordinator to Thomas Brown being the head coach, right? So it was a circus the entire year. The offensive line for the Bears was battered and injured the entire year, cycling through players, and it's just a complete disaster. So you ask yourself, put Jayden Daniels in that scenario, right? And I think many Bears fans would see that the Bears would have been worse off, right? I thought that what Caleb Williams was able to do in that scenario last year, that dumpster fire, that circus, that clown show, both on the field and off the field. I mean, he had the Bears in position to win half of their divisional matchups, right? I mean, you look at those first three divisional games, right? The one against the Packers, he left the field in position for them to win the game, right? Obviously, the kick got blocked, and that game still bothers me to this day because I thought that when the Bears were up, I think they were up 8 points or maybe 9 points with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had gone for it on fourth down, I think 3 times, and they got it all 3 times that day. Matt Eberflus chose to punt instead of just go for the 4th and 1 or the 4th or 2, whatever it was, and they could have ended the game right there, up 9 or 10 or whatever they were up. So that game was on Matt Eberflus, right? And Caleb Williams still overcame that and put them in a position to go win the game, and the kick got blocked. And then the Minnesota game, obviously the Bears were down 2 scores with like a minute and a half left. Caleb Williams forced overtime, right? In a pass-only situation where Minnesota knows that the Bears are going to be passing and try and, catch up quickly, he forced overtime, right? And then I think they went 3 and out, right? So that wasn't great. And then Matt Eberflus's defense gave up like a 80-yard drive in overtime to Sam Darnold. Not great. And then obviously we all know what happened in the game with the Lions, right? When the head coach doesn't know either how to call a timeout or that he can call a timeout, right? So those are games that you put Jayden Daniels in, the Bears still lose, right? If Jayden Daniels gets, does what he does, what he was known for this past year, right? With his big fourth quarter plays, his comebacks. Caleb Williams did that. The issue was Caleb Williams was held back by his coaching staff, right? The coaching staff cost them the Minnesota game and the Detroit game, and you can argue that it cost them the Green Bay game as well. And it cost them the game against Washington, right? So when you look at these stats, right, Caleb Williams, rookie year, 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 picks, 88 rating. That's a good rookie season. That is a very good rookie season for a quarterback that was drafted first overall. Wasn't really the first overall pick, I get it, but that is a good rookie season. That is the best rookie season in the history of the Bears at that position. and yet it's talked down upon like it's like he's terrible, like he's entering potential bust conversations, and it blows my mind. And then Jayden Daniels, 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, right? 100 rating. Better, but better scenario, better ownership, better head coach, right? Dan Quinn's not some loser head coach, right? He had been to a Super Bowl in Atlanta. He had been in the playoffs multiple times with Dallas as their defensive coordinator. He's a good coach. And he had full trust in Jayden Daniels. One of the biggest problems that I had with Matt Eberflus and really Shane Waldron and the coaching staff last year was it was clear that they didn't trust Caleb Williams, right? No faith in the rookie, no faith in the offense, and the players feel that. They feel that energy. They feel that lack of trust. I remember watching. I think it was week 3. I think it was a Monday night game, maybe, Washington and Cincinnati, and it was like 4th and 6 or something. And Jayden Daniels is looking at Dan Quinn, saying he wants to go for it on 4th down. Dan Quinn's thinking and thinking, and then he says, "Okay, go for it." And then Jayden Daniels throws the bomb up the right sideline for a touchdown. That's a head coach trusting his rookie quarterback. In the Packers game for the Bears, the first one, 4th and 2, Bears were 100% on 4th downs that day. Up 8 or up 9, I can't remember. Have a chance to ice the game with 5 minutes left. Matt Eberflus didn't trust his rookie quarterback. And so he punted. And they lost the game because of it. So that was the difference, right? So this whole redraft scenario, it's silly. It's stupid. It's asinine. Because Jayden Daniels wouldn't have had as successful of a season as he did in Washington. And had it played out that way, Ryan Poles would not be the general manager right now. He would have been fired, along with Matt Eberflus, for passing on the consensus first-round pick. And so you look at what Caleb Williams did in Chicago, and then you go to the scenario and you flip it. What if Jayden Daniels was drafted by the Commanders, but let's not focus on that. What if Caleb Williams was in Washington? That team that went to the NFC Championship potentially wins the Super Bowl with Caleb Williams. Because I, alongside many, think and truly believe that Caleb Williams' ceiling is much higher than Jayden Daniels. And that's not to say Jayden Daniels is a bad player. He's showed that he can be a great player in this league. Will that continue after teams have an off-season of kind of learning Cliff Kingsbury's more college-type offense? Who knows? We'll see. But he is a good quarterback, and I'm not denying that. I am not a Jayden Daniels hater by any means. But Washington with Caleb Williams maybe wins that NFC Championship game. In my eyes. And then Ryan Poles gets fired. And then here we are, new GM, new head coach, questioning potentially if we have the quarterback, regretting that we passed on the consensus number 1 pick. And so it's just, it's silly. The Jayden Daniels conversations that I read and I hear online are very interesting. Colin Coward of FS1 said something that I thought was really, really interesting and a little bit silly in my opinion. And he was saying that if Jayden Daniels has another year like he had this past year, this coming year, that he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. No, not quite. Not quite. He had the greatest rookie season of all time. There's no debate about that. But let's pump the brakes a little bit, right? I mean, let's relax just a little bit. So that's where I'm at. Think about that scenario a little bit. Give me your guys' thoughts down below. Imagine the scenario where they were drafted in opposite spots. Would the Bears' season have been better? I don't think so. Would the Commanders' season have been better? Possibly. I don't think it would have been worse, but I think it could have been better. So these redraft scenarios are interesting. Always interesting to talk about and think about. Let me know what you guys think down below. Gonna do a mock draft video or two here shortly within the next couple days. I am going on a trip in April, so I will not be able to upload any videos really leading up to the draft. I get back the day before the draft, so we will see what happens there. But I appreciate you guys listening. As always, this is going to be a big year. Potentially new things are going to be coming to the channel. Potentially, multi-person discussions, things like that. We'll have to see, but I appreciate you all for your support. If you're new here and you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps me grow the channel. And I appreciate you guys. As always, bear down, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.